Hello everybody and welcome back to Victoria, where we are currently in a bit of an economic situation. I mean, we have been, but we just changed over some of our production methods, and the one that I'm really concerned about here is the coal shortage. That one is potentially very, very bad. So this is primarily being caused by logging camps, so we should probably take our logging camps from being on steam donkeys back down to horse-drawn. That's going to raise the price of wood, which would be good, and significantly reduce our coal requirements. So now if we see here, this hasn't updated yet. Let's give it a moment. That's much better. So we definitely need to do something about coal. We need some domestic production of it. There's no doubt about that. I'm not so concerned about the steel shortage because we do have domestic production of steel over here in Michigan. So in theory, we should hire people in here and get some steel production going. We're producing a little bit. We need to be producing more. No doubt about that. There we go. That's what I want to see. A good hiring event there. Cool. So we now have some steel production underway. That seems fantastic. We can see that our number of radicals is actually substantially dropping at this moment. That is very good. So taking a look at our unrealized taxes here, 804 with a tax waste of 21% on average. Okay, that looks fine. We do need to work up our institutions, which we're working on doing. Law enforcement is the big one here. Home affairs would be useful, but it's not the biggest of deals. Do we have any law changes that we want to do at this point? Well, not really, actually. We could try to pass public health insurance. It would definitely be a good thing to have the better mortality. No doubt about that. These odds are not fantastic. This would be basically RNG whether this happens or not. We can give it a go, but I would not be surprised if this ends up not being a thing. And let's see what this does overall to our economy with things like tax avoidance from the industrialists kicking up. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, first week, not so bad. So that looks pretty okay for the moment. As we can see, there is still an engines shortage, and paper is expensive. We produce both of those, so that's not too bad. This engine shortage, not terribly shocking. Okay, we definitely need to get some coal production going. So we're currently working on expanding logging camps in Indiana. Illinois actually has a bonus to construction efficiency at this time. So that is understood. Great Medicine Society, huh? Free Trade Party. So that's the industrialists. At this point, we kind of want the Radical Party to pull votes. But we're going to start to see some division in our politics here. We've been pretty healthily under the Liberal Party for a long time now, but with the Radical Party coming in, that's going to start pulling votes. Eventually, we're going to get to the point where we have a plurality rather than an outright majority. But for now, this is reasonably fine. We can just get some momentum here. A web of distrust, huh? We don't really want more radicalism. 5 legitimacy would put us at, what, 91? That's actually acceptable. So that seems fine for now. Excellent. So radicalism is mostly ticking down. This tick up here is due to that event. We'll see what ends up happening with that. There may be some more radicalism because of this law passage. We'll see what ends up happening there, but our overall standard of living is pretty good and on an uptrend, so that looks fine for now. So we're currently rocking an engines and steel shortage again. I mean, this is going to find a balance. We produce this, but the big thing that we need is a source of coal domestically right now. That is going to be a very big deal. Now, to that end, what are our production methods for our coal mine? Okay, same as iron mine. So that's going to definitely be utilizing steam donkeys. So that's going to be engines and a little bit of coal, but that's fine. And this is going to use tools. So I'm not too concerned about that. We progressed up to study already on public health insurance. We actually got a success roll there. That's surprising. And we'll see what happens with the election here. This is in 10 days. This may change around our odds here. It could be good or it could be bad. I'm not entirely sure which. We could maybe, like, work the trade unions into our next government. We'll see what that feels like. So 1 day left there. And there we go. So as expected, this is our vote share. And let's take a quick peek at where we're at here. Legitimate 80 at this moment. So yeah, this is not terribly surprising. I think I'll leave this where we're at. So for now, that's fine. But we'd like to go to public health insurance to get the sweet, sweet additional institution levels for our health system. Bring this up, I think we would go to here. So, I mean, that would be a big mortality bump. That would be 6% mortality reduction. That would be huge. Absolutely huge for us. We're currently growing at almost 20k annually, by the way. So that's not bad. Not bad at all. And how much money do we have on hand right now? About 18k. And we are constructing here. Okay, let's start building our coal mine simultaneously. So we're only getting half into this at this point. But we can do this for a few weeks. Only a few weeks. That's absolutely fine. So at this point, checking in here, we see that we do have some peasants. This is probably qualification issues, if I had to guess. But we are at education institution level 3, so that is definitely boosting our education access and boosting our assimilation as well. So that's good. We could definitely use more qualifications, but it's fine-ish for now. Vulcanization has been unlocked. Does that give us any actual production methods that we can utilize? Machine to steel tools. I don't think this is a good idea at this time. We're struggling to balance our steel as it is. This would be less wood. And we don't have a source of rubber domestically. Now, we could go to craftsman sewing here, potentially, or elastics. I don't think that's a good idea either for the moment. We're going to leave our textile mills where they're at. We're going to leave our tooling workshops where they're at for the moment. So that all looks fine, and I'd love to go to electric sawmills, but that's not going to be a thing. So that's understood. We are going to run out of money relatively quickly here. In fact, we need to pause this right now, and that's absolutely understood. Next up will be privatization of the steel mills in Michigan. Okay, that'll be a big bump of cash that we can invest into coal mines. That would not necessarily be a bad thing. In fact, that would be a quite good thing. So that's definitely something to think about. What do we get here? Debate. Okay. So what do we get? 90% chance of a 20% and 40% chance of a 10%. Or rather, 10% chance of a 40% increase. And we got the 20% increase. So that's pretty huge. That came entirely out of the debate. And the stall chance went up as well because we made the industrialists angry with that. That's understood. So that's absolutely fine for now. Engine price is still running a shortage at this moment. And why are we currently not bringing anyone in here? Well, this is because we've got a steel shortage. Coal is expensive. And we're trying to hire in here, but it's not fantastic. We need to deal with that steel shortage, right? And that is this here. So, again, we'll find a balance here. So this is fine for now, but we do need to get some domestic coal production going as soon as possible. So this investment pool is going to be shrinking for a while here. We're going to finish up the logging camp in Indiana, but I'm not terribly concerned about that right now. We do want to get this coal mine completed, but for the moment, let's bank up some cash here. And I'm interested in, well, I kind of don't want to wait until this steel mill in Michigan is done. That's going to take a while. Why are we negative right now? It must have been pulling from our coffers there instead of pulling from the private construction pool. That's interesting. I wonder if it does that if we have gold reserves. It did not do that when we were in debt earlier. So that's interesting. No doubt about that. Well, the investment pool is going to be growing pretty quickly right now. It's growing at about 2K at this point. So this is going up by about, what, 1% per week? Something along those lines? It should be about 1% per week. So that'll be about 100 weeks in total before that's ready to go. That's going to take a while, no doubt about that. And a transportation shortage in Minnesota. But this railway, we just need people here, right? That's running an engine shortage. So we kind of have cyclical shortages going on here. And what this is telling me is that we just don't have enough people to work all of these industries. This isn't necessarily shocking. This isn't necessarily shocking at all. Oh, we just got a big bump of cash. Okay, beautiful. So let's construct for a few weeks here. We stalled here. 80% chance of nothing happens. And we got it. Excellent. So that is absolutely fantastic. So we're going to be able to build for a few weeks here. This is going to be like 10-ish weeks before we get this coal mine in Illinois done. I'm wondering what we have for population here right now. Insignificant peasants and unemployment. Yeah, I'm not shocked about that. So that's absolutely fine for now. The question is... That's only in Indiana. I don't want to take a bureaucracy hit here. We're already negative on bureaucracy from a modifier that we took previously. So, yeah, we'll pass on that. Modernization movement? Sure. Okay. So we're going to run out of money here in about 4 weeks. The question is, do we want to go into debt to finish the coal mine? I think the answer is no. There's not really a big reason to rush the coal mine right now. Reason being, we don't have the people to work in it anyway, right? What's with this hook here? I didn't see anything about a mass migration. I'm waiting for an update on this. Okay, interesting. Well, we definitely want to pause our construction, and let's check in here. So, weekly migration, this is going to... Ah, they were going to Oklahoma briefly there. Oklahoma's not within our territory. They're not doing that anymore. Oklahoma, Comanchera, and Indiana. So they are migrating externally. Interesting. Well, we definitely don't want that to be happening, right? So for the time being, we are currently 10K in debt, and we are running a very, very small deficit right now, and I'm wondering why. Well, I think a big part of it is this bureaucracy issue. So that is absolutely a concern. Let's see if this turns around to being a small surplus. Yes. Okay. Beautiful. So we've still got that engines shortage here, and that, of course, means that we need more people working our motor industries here, right? We just have very few people working here, but cyclical shortages are absolutely a problem at this juncture. This tells me that we need more workers. That's fine. Now, our gainful employment rate isn't huge. We can think about passing, after we're done working on what we're working on right now, we can think about passing, instead of legal guardianship, like propertied women to boost our workforce ratio, or even women in the workplace if we can do that. That requires feminism, so we haven't gotten that yet. We could go to propertied women. That will drop our birth rate by 5%, but move 5% of our workforce ratio. Okay, we got a debate here. I feel like we shouldn't make the industrialists more angry here. So we'll slow it down a little bit. That's fine. Okay. So 632K, we are definitely seeing this go down. Was there a mass emigration somewhere? Yeah, they're definitely leaving Minnesota. Entering Michigan. Entering Indiana very slowly. So it's mostly just Minnesota that this is happening in, and this is due to the struggling people in Minnesota. Okay, so we have 1.46K peasants here. They don't have qualifications to fill vacancies. Ooh, that was a big privatization. So that was that steel mill. We should absolutely be constructing right now. Let's get that done, and hopefully this mass migration will be over soon. Once we get this coal mine, that will significantly help us. And we have a lot of these trade routes that are currently inactive. Okay, that's going to cause us some potential issues. I'm going to get rid of these for now, and we'll re-evaluate them. But we are positive again in our bureaucracy, so that's something. Oil discovered in Ohio? Was that in our Ohio? Game froze. There we go. That took a moment. No, not in our section of Ohio, I don't think. So that's good to know. So we're going to finish up this coal mine. And that'll be done nice and quickly. We'll be able to continue to construct for a little while here. Looks like our population is back to growth, I think. Okay, yeah, this is probably internal migration. Yeah. This might not be. Indiana and Illinois. Okay, good. Good, good, good. That's all internal migration. So no problem there. We're going to get this coal mine finished up, and we have a lot of shortages at this moment. That's understood. So we're going to finish the coal mine, which means that we're not going to import coal if we can at all help it. There's a fertilizer shortage, and we cannot import from the reactionary American market. So that's understood. Gantry cranes, sure. Okay, so let's finish this coal mine, and what else are we short on right now? Well, steel, fertilizer, coal, and engines. Sure. I feel like the sulfur mine is probably the way to go. Probably. I think we'll continue to work on that for the time being. There's our law enforcement investment going up. That's very good. That will reduce the construction efficiency malice here by about 3%, but still. Okay, so that looks fine for the moment. So now this coal mine is complete, and we have a domestic production of coal at this juncture. That's very, very good. And we did have a railway here, correct? Correct. Okay. Public health insurance just went up to voting. That's going very well. So everything's looking good on that front. Population is back to growth, so that is absolutely fantastic. And we're going to be able to construct here for a while. This is going to be, of course, very, very stimulating to our economy. We really, really do want to have this coal mine finish up. There's an input goods transportation shortage. Yeah, so this is a bit of an issue for sure, but at least we have a domestic supply of coal, right? So we should no longer be running a shortage of coal at this moment. There is a shortage of engines and fertilizer, but coal itself is also experiencing a shortage of transportation. And this is due to the railway not having very many people in it. This is, of course, also due to the shortage of of engines, right? So we're trying to produce some of that. The steel prices make that a little high, but let's see what happens here. No hiring. Why are you not hiring? Needs a higher productivity to compete. Okay. So for now, we're on steam engines and rotary valve engines. This is the best we can do for our production methods right now. But we can start evaluating some of these trade routes at this point. So, considerable import demand would include engines, fertilizer, which fertilizer I'm okay with importation of, but we could import some grain, but we're doing that. Explosives, we produce domestically. Steel, we produce domestically. And paper, we produce domestically. So for the time being, that's all relatively fine. As far as export demand goes, wood, yes, we're going to export that, despite the fact that it's technically negative. Tobacco is okay. Wine, sure. Clothing, I guess. There we go. Porcelain we don't actually produce, and sugar is not great. So that seems fine for now. Now, if we take a look at our trade routes here, and we look at some of these, we're exporting some iron here. We may not actually want to be doing this at this time. Same with this tobacco. Any of these exports, other than wood that is negative, I'm going to get rid of. Wood, I want to continually maximally export. So we can get rid of this clothing. This is a tea import route. We don't produce tea. This is a coal import route. We know we're struggling with coal right now. We don't produce any sulfur domestically. So that looks good for the moment. Okay, transportation shortage in Illinois and in Minnesota. Both of those have railways constructed, so that seems fine for now. Now, our sulfur mine in Wisconsin is being worked on. We're 14 weeks away from that, and we're not going to have the money to fully build this right now. We're also not building any private constructions right now, so we'll see what happens on that front. Now, our standard of living is dropping right now, and why is this? Price of grain. Okay. Price of grain is absolutely something that we can do something about maybe. No available options. Okay. Well, I would hope that people would start working in, like, our maize farms. Actually, there are some working in our maize farms here. The maize farm is currently on an input goods shortage of fertilizer, though, so that's understood. I'd like to import more fertilizer, to be clear. That's, I think, the core underlying problem here with our standard of living at this moment is the fertilizer issue. This is just because of the American reactionary revolt being jerks. I mean, that's normal. So we're going to get the sulfur mine done here. This was necessary before we built this fertilizer plant, because fertilizer plants, if we go into here, fertilizer plants take in iron and sulfur. We need to have a domestic source of sulfur before we get a fertilizer plant going. We produce a little bit of fertilizer from our livestock ranches, but it's very, very, very minor. So that's understood. I'm pausing our construction at this time. We are now in debt, and we're going to need to come out of that debt, of course. Okay. There we go. So now we're working on paying off that little bit of debt. We got our sulfur mines mostly constructed with that money, and that does look good for now. Hopefully we'll have private construction going on soon enough, but for the time being, what we really, really need is to get our population going back up here. We're back on track to being at our highest population level. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting close. So looking in on our institutions here, 96 weeks and 45 weeks. Okay. That seems relatively fine. So we definitely want to get that law enforcement up. That's a big part of this. And, I mean, our radicalism, it's kind of holding steady right now. This is mostly due to that fertilizer issue, and we'll work on that. Oh, engines just had a big tick there. Ah, excellent. So we hired in to about where we need to be. Looks good. Okay, what do we want here? -1 law enforcement? Absolutely not. We can't handle that. That was only 5k radicals, so that'll do for now. So we're going to come out of debt here very, very shortly. Yeah, this is only a couple more weeks that we're going to be in debt, and our income is definitely growing at this juncture. This is very manageable at this point. We need to get the sulfur mine done, and then the fertilizer plant, which the fertilizer plant is going to take a long time to build. Do we actually want this in United Indian Ohio? I think we need to question that at this moment. So let's think about where we might want to build the fertilizer plant. Yeah, so Minnesota, then. Definitely Minnesota. Okay, so we'll get that in there. That'll be a much better place. It's still construction efficiency problems, but hopefully by the time we get there, those will be a little bit better. Hopefully. So we're not currently... Oh, no, we are still running a fertilizer shortage. The American Reactionary Revolt will not trade with us. Yeah, fair enough. So we need to definitely get some more fertilizer going. A domestic fertilizer production would be absolutely ideal. So we've got some gold reserves here. Our private construction is not currently doing anything at this moment, which is, you know, not amazing, but we've built up 120k. We'll be able to build something relatively soon there, if they decide to do so. It's a bit of an if. Okay, so at this point... Hang on. What happened with our public health insurance? Oh, it passed. I didn't even notice. Okay. It passed. So that's really good. That means, of course, that we want to move our health system up to here. So we'll get that going. That will increase our mortality, or rather decrease our mortality, and further increase our pop growth rate. Now, one thing I really do think that we need to do is we need to get more people working. Now, child labor is, you know, not great. We can restrict child labor. We should probably do that. So we also want to get women into the workplace eventually. We really need to get people put to work here because we have a lot of open jobs, right? Not in all of these locations, but there are definitely a lot of open jobs. Our economy is definitely balancing out into a better situation at this point, but we still have a lot of investment that we need to do to make this a viable domestic market. So that is absolutely something that needs to happen. I think that restricted child labor, this is a really easy W for us. This is going to pass almost certainly. This fertilizer shortage is a significant issue. And the main question right now is, how long is it going to take us to get this sulfur mine built? I think the answer is not very, to be honest. Getting that sulfur mine online will be a very, very big deal. We are up to 70% literacy at this point, and that's pretty decent. Our GDP and our standard of living are still rough. We're working on it. We're making strides in the correct direction. I'll put it that way. So we're going to need to drop our sulfur import as soon as we get our sulfur mine completed, which will be absolutely fine. There are some things that we can't produce that we'll have to import. Things like dyes, we're not going to produce those anytime soon. So some of those, and rubber as well, rubber will have to be imported. We're not going to produce that anytime soon. So that's all understood. It is about time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to continue to build up our gold reserves here. We're going to get this sulfur mine finished up, and then we're going to start working on this fertilizer plant in Minnesota. That is absolutely going to be a necessity, but we are working our way up on all of these institutions, and those will be a very, very good thing for us. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.